This is Qtv News and I am Jenna Wasonko. Thank you for joining us. First, the main local and international news headlines. How prepared are members of the public if a second wave of the coronavirus hits the Gambia? We went into the streets to find out. What does government's temporary ban on the importation of poultry products mean for local producers, dealers and consumers? Musuba Kotosawo, a Gambian, has been awarded the 2020 Daily Trust African of the Year prize, which recognizes her tireless efforts in fighting for women's rights. In business news, an oil company responds to being named in a press release as having contravened laws around the construction of petrol stations. In international news, 60 years after his assassination, we look back on the life and legacy of Patrice Lumumba. In sports news, we hear how the women's basketball teams are using the preseason to prepare for the season ahead. In football, the GFF First Division League saw its first derby of the new season as Gambia Ports Authority took on Banjul United. Those were the main headlines, and now the news in detail. Do stay with us. Thank you for joining us, and now the news in detail. Now, after government's easing of some COVID-19 restrictions and businesses going back to normal, we went out to find out the public's preparedness, about how they would deal with a second wave, similar to that which is devastating many countries across the globe. Lole M. Kamara has the rest of that.
The threat of a second wave of the coronavirus has started taking its toll on many countries, and African countries are being warned to prepare for this more deadly form of the virus. At the Serekunda market, people are going about their normal businesses, and many are not adhering to COVID-19 guidelines, even though there is a warning from the Ministry of Health to do so. Some of the vendors we spoke to said the second wave has come as a surprise to them. Sadio Konate, who sells vegetables at the market, has this advice. We should put on a face mask, wash our hands with soap when entering our homes, and to quickly report to the hospital for any symptoms. Also, the government should help in providing enough drugs to help in curing the disease. Mariama Sane says she is not a fan of face masks, but admits wearing one is part of the solution.
It is true that they are helping us, because nobody prays or wishes to be sick, but if you take preventive measures, you might be safe. I used to wear a face mask, but it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Sarah Mansari, a palm oil seller, said prevention is better than cure.
Anytime I come to the market or go anywhere, I must make sure that I use my face mask, because there is a saying that goes, prevention is better than cure. If you prevent it, it's better than you have it, then you say you are going to cure it. So that's why anytime, anywhere I am going, I must have my face mask.
Ajifatu Fall encourages everyone to keep wearing face masks. But for Musu Kamara, she thought the virus has disappeared, not knowing she should be ready in case there is a second wave. As things stand, it appears that people are more interested in recovering what was lost during the first wave than paying any attention to or preparing to combat the consequences of a possible second wave. For Qtv News, Loli M. Kamara.
Following government's announcement of a temporary embargo on the importation of poultry and all poultry products, including chicken, meat and eggs, from Senegal and other countries currently experiencing HbA1 and H5A1 outbreak, our reporter Omar Pijalo went out to find out what this means to the local producers, dealers and consumers, and he fastened this report.
The statement by the Ministry of Agriculture through the Department of Livestock Services is guided by the response activities stipulated in the Integrated National Emergency Preparedness and Response Plan for Aviation and Human Influenza. The ultimate objective of the ban is to protect human lives while enhancing food security in the Gambia. The statement also stated that the Ministry of Agriculture and the National Aviation Influenza Task Force recognizes that this ban may cause a temporary unfavorable shortage of chicks and poultry products in the Gambia, but calls on people to abide by the ban since bird flu is a highly contagious viral disease with a significant zoonotic risk and a major global public health concern and potential pandemic similar to COVID-19 or even worse. However, Ayode Olea, the farm manager of T-Farms Poultry Gambia Limited in Latria, which has over 5,000 birds and produces 135 crates of eggs a day and has all facilities needed to produce chicks, meat and eggs, is confident that they can meet the country's demand for poultry and all poultry products, even if the ban continues.
Presently, we can employ 50 people in this place, but we are down to just 8 people, 2 securities at night. The broiler farm is not working, just the layer farm, and this, as you see, is easy to manage. It's a cage system. The other ones are deep litter system. You need people to take care of the birds there in 2 other houses. The hatchery has staffs, the feed mill has staffs, and when we are processing, we employ labor, 30 girls, 10 boys, to help to clean and cut the chickens as required.
The owner of Njai's Poultry Farm, Abdul Njai, who is also the PRO of the Poultry Farmers Association, appeals for government support to enable them to supply the whole country without importation.
Due to the lack of encouragement that we have put all kind of necessary equipments or whatever it takes for the government to support us, to be able to show them that we are able and capable. Once we are not being encouraged, we cannot prove ourselves.
Ndaisise, a consumer, is concerned that the ban could lead to an increase in price of chickens and chicken products. This is what Kayode Olea has to say in response.
If the prices are increased from outside, what do we do? The prices of maize is going up, prices of concentrate and all that. So how do we do it?
This ban will be effective until the World Organization for Animal Health and the Senegalese authorities confirm that the outbreak is completely contained and new cases of the disease have not occurred in Senegal. But Mr. Olea believes government should completely ban the importation of chickens and chicken products and support the local farms, thereby encouraging local production and create more employment for the youths.
If there is a ban and there is a subsidy or there is help and sensitization, people will go into poultry.
It is now up to the local chicken producers to seize this opportunity and prove to the government that there is no need to import chickens and chicken products. The outbreak in Senegal, which occurred in the Thiès region, east of the capital Dakar, has killed 58,000 birds in the 100,000 strong flocks, with the remaining animals being culled. The World Organization for Animal Health said on Thursday, citing a report from Senegalese Veterinary Services. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Musuba Kotosawo has been awarded the 2020 Daily Trust African of the Year Award, which recognizes her tireless efforts in fighting for women's rights. I spoke to her earlier today, and this is my report.
Daily Trust officials say a key consideration for women's rights activist Musuba Kotosawa's selection was that in this period of COVID-19, women have been particularly negatively impacted, especially during the lockdown, when the rates of sexual and gender-based violence have risen significantly. The selection process was conducted by a 7-member award committee led by the former president of Botswana, His Excellency Dr. Festus Mogae. Musu says this award came as a huge surprise, as it's not something she had to apply for. She dedicates the award to women and girls.
For me, it's not about doing this work for the sake of getting recognitions. And that's why even my previous awards, they still came as a surprise for me, because I do this work for the love that I have for it. I do this work because of my personal experience and knowing how difficult it was. I do this work because I believe in the power of girls' education and inequality and then gender equity. So I do this work because of all these reasons, and because I don't want to see any more girl have to miss out on school because of a marriage. I don't want to see any more girl die or leave consequences of female genital mutilation because of a certain tradition.
Musuba Kotosawo was married at the age of 14 and widowed at 21 with no inheritance. She is also a victim of female genital mutilation as a child. Musu uses her experience to change the narrative in relation to these harmful traditional practices in different spaces. She is the national coordinator of Think Young Women, a women-led organization championing women's rights advocacy. Musu calls on girls who have gone through the same pain as her to share their stories and contribute to changing the status quo.
When you go through these kind of things, it's not an easy process. It's a difficult journey for every person who would have been in my shoes. But at the end of the day, we're all made different. Take your time when you feel it's right, when you are ready to pick up yourself again. Refuse to be a figure, because I didn't want to be that. I did not want to be remembered as just someone's wife. I had dreams, I had aspirations, I had goals.
The chairman of the selection committee, His Excellency Festus Mogai, had this to say about Musu's selection. Musuba Kotosawo deserves the award for her continuous work to end violence against girls and women, including child marriage and female genital mutilation. End of quote. Musu is the recipient of the 2017 Virtue Award from the Center for Human Rights, University of Pretoria, South Africa, recognized as one of the 100 most influential young persons in West Africa by the Confederation of West African Youths in 2018, a recipient of the Inspiring Gambian Award 2018 by the People's Choice Award for Excellence in the Gambia, and Youth Dialogue Youth of the Month in May 2019 on QTV. The Daily Trust African of the Year Award recognizes and rewards annually an exemplary African who has made extraordinary contributions to human development in any part of the continent and in any sphere of human endeavor. The award comes with a cash prize of $10,000, and the presentation of the award will be done sometime in March this year in Banjul. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jennifer Sonko.
Well, congratulations to Musuba Kotosawo. More wins ahead. We will take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we will take a look at more local news stories, international and sports news. Do stay tuned.
Your favorite QCell service has gotten bigger. eFunkanta. Now you can loan bigger credit amounts to make life easier for you. Loan $75 and $100 and pay later. Yes, you heard me right. Get credit loan from $10 to $100 using eFunkanta by dialing *393#. Anytime you run out of credit, whether you want to buy Q-Power, browse the internet, make urgent calls, or send SMS. eFunkanta is the service for you. Dial *393# and choose the loan amount of your choice with no hassle. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyabus, the pioneers of mobile loan service in the Gambia. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV News. Now, following an announcement by President Barrow during his Meet the People tour that government plans to construct a new market in Birkama, QTV's Babakar Sise looks at the poor state of the fish market in Birkama. This is his report.
At a meeting in Birkama early this month, President Barrow said the construction of the Birkama market is in the 2021 budget and Gamworks is working on the construction plan. The Birkama market is at a strategic junction linking the coast and the inland. As a popular retail market, it serves not only the people of Birkama, but also neighboring villages who come to either do shopping or sell their produce. The market provides customers with fresh fish at a more reasonable price than other fish markets in the country. The fish market was constructed 10 years ago within the framework of a grant of about $126 million from Japan. At the time, it was proposed, among other things, that a new water supply system would be installed to maintain a healthy and hygienic environment. However, the market has been grappling with the problem of waste management, a poor drainage system, and environmental pollution. The market is inundated with filthy stagnant water containing sewage, insects, and garbage. Without no other option, vendors display their produce in this filthy environment. The woman who spoke to me on condition of anonymity said they pay daily duties to the fish market and the area council. According to them, the fish market has no septic tank to facilitate the management of wastewater. The vendors come from the nearby villages with their goods. They occupy narrow alleys between the stalls to attend to customers. The construction of a new market is welcomed by the people of Birkama. When completed, it is hoped that perhaps not only the problem of waste management, a poor drainage system, and an environmental pollution will be addressed, but also frequent fires that burn down the Birkama market. For now, It is Hobson's choice for the poor women and customers to continue using the fish market until their stake in the 2021 budget comes to fruition as promised by President Barrow. Babukar Sise, Qtv News.
Now on to some business news. After a press release in the newspapers about the fine levied on a petrol station, we spoke to the company named in the release. Jar Oil Company have expressed their disappointment with the sector's regulatory authority, PURA, who last week fined them almost $1 million for what is described as the illegal construction of 3 petrol stations. More in this report.
According to a PURA press release published in the print media, the 3 petrol stations are the ones in Wellingara, Kairava Avenue and in Basse. According to PURA, Jar Oil Company Limited has deliberately violated the relevant laws by failing to comply with the legal requirements to obtain construction permit and for refusing to comply with the authorities' directives. Responding to the charges against the company, the manager of Jar Oil, Momodu Haidara, said the fines levied are shocking.
We are not putting up any illegal structure, as you can see. We have a building permit from the physical planning, and regulation requires as the supplier, people in the supply chain of petroleum to also work with PURA. And we've sent an application to PURA from the first day, somewhere around May. And then they came for an inspection. And then when they looked at the 2 stations, they said that the 2 stations are unqualified based on a regulation that is in the 2018 regulation, petroleum regulation, saying that every service station should be about 50 meters away from a place of residence or public assembly. So they invited us in a meeting whereby all the stakeholders were present. And then when we went to that meeting, all the stakeholders agreed that that particular regulation is unfeasible, it's not tenable, the 50 meters, and it should be scrapped. So we adopted that in that meeting, and they said it will be followed by a validation meeting. So the validation came, everybody recorded everything, and it was passed. And they said it will be gazetted before the end of December, let's say around about 20th. So by then, Wellingara was at an advanced stage. So we wrote saying that, okay, since if the regulation is gone, we'll be qualified. We want to open Wellingara around December. So when we wrote to them in a letter, instead of them replying us in kind, at least indicating this time around what is the problem, no, they didn't reply to our letter. Instead, they slapped us with a fine.
According to Mr. Haidara, they can't understand why they have been targeted when most of their competitors have been operating without observing the regulations.
When you look around as journalists, go and do your findings, you will see that all the petrol stations are operating. And they are not in compliance with that 50-meter rule they are hitting us with. And then the question we are asking them, let them give us a fair answer. Why us and why us now?
According to the release from PURA, the company is to pay a fine of $925,000. But according to Mr. Haidara, the letter sent to them requests they pay $1,200,000, which they have paid on Monday. QTV has seen both the letter and the receipt.
This is why I went there to ask them again, what do we have to pay? And they insisted, they said 1.2 million. And that's the check I showed you. And that's a question that you have to ask PURA. Why is it on line 900? And then the letter sent to us is 1.2 million.
So what is next for the company? As they have been ordered to stop construction with immediate effect. But as can be seen in these pictures, they are still going ahead with construction work.
We've wrote a protest letter to PURA, protesting their enforcement. And at the same time, we've also wrote a letter to the Minister of Petroleum to inquire into this matter, because the way we see it is we are a victim of just a company that's targeted.
The company is calling on PURA to look into the 50-meter regulations about new constructions. The 50-meter refers to the distance there should be between a petrol station and any other building. The company hopes that they will come to an agreement very soon with the regulatory authority, as their expansion in building petrol stations is an advantage in job creation for the youths of the country. Babu Karsi, QTV News.
We will take another short commercial break, and when we come back, we will take a look at international and sports news. Do stay tuned.
One nation, 8 tribes. We are the smiling coast of Africa. Gap-toothed, wide smile, rich melanin skin, radiant with the colors of a rich tapestry of cultures, telling one story of unity and beauty. Wrapped in the soft folds of a mother's sir, a Khalifa's grambuba, we embody the past of our ancestors and the promise of our descendants. Follow the records of our history, this story that tells of a people watered by the river in the gleaming sun of a coastal nation. Listen to the folk tales, those old tales we grew up on. Lebon, Lupain, Amon Nafi, Danaam. Hear the music of an entire nation in the language of its heart and mother tongue. Our tongues are heavy with the song of our people. Rich and thick it rolls off like domoda, soft like yasa, bena chinla, nyokomom. Feel the beat of our pounding feet as we dance to the sounds of a throbbing drum, ageless in its rhythm. The griot's kora that speaks the wisdom of the ages. The sweet sound of a mother's lullaby bringing even sweeter sleep. We clap a melody with young and old hands, a symphony full of the pleasures of life, the joys of work and home. We are Gambian. Bi suñu cosaan la, suñu dëkk, suñu bos.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is Qtv News. On to some international news. 17th January marked the 60th anniversary of the assassination of the DRC's first Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. The incident sparked an international outpouring of grief and rage against the US and Belgium, who were blamed for orchestrating the murder.
Patrice Lumumba's assassination has been described by some as the country's original sin, coming less than 7 months after independence, on 30th of June 1960. His death was not announced publicly until about a month after it happened. It triggered widespread rioting in the eastern region and protests across Africa, Europe, the United States and Canada. At the United Nations, memorably, African-American activists, including Maya Angelou, picketed the UN building and disrupted the General Assembly. In Belgrade, the capital of the former Yugoslavia, protests were held in front of the Belgian embassy, which grew into clashes between demonstrators and police, resulting in many injuries on all sides. In Canada, African students, joined by students from Barbados and Pakistan, at McGill University in Montreal, marched to the American and Belgian consulates and delivered letters condemning what they called the eternal forces that have contributed to the savagery and the attitude of foreign nations who made possible the assassination of a great national leader. They carried placards reading, "Belgium, saboteur of independence. Lumumba is stronger in death than alive," and "Lumumba, Abe Lincoln of the Congo." The People's Friendship University of the Soviet Union, established in 1960 for students from Asia, Africa and Latin America, was rechristened Patrice Lumumba in his honor. President Felix Tshisekedi, on the country's 60th independence anniversary, paid tribute to the leader at a site in the capital Kinshasa, where a memorial is to be installed in his honor. The president reiterated this on the anniversary of Lumumba's death. Patrice Lumumba was the first Prime Minister of the DRC at independence. On 30th of June 1960, Joseph Kasavubu became the first president. Conflict soon arose over the administration of the territory, by area the largest country in sub-Saharan Africa. At the time of Lumumba's death, the country had fallen under 4 separate governments: the central government in Kinshasa, then Leopoldville, a rival central government by Lumumba's followers in Kisangani, then Stanleyville, and the secessionist regimes in the mineral-rich provinces of Katanga and South Kasai. The UN and Western governments refused his request for aid. He threatened to seek assistance from the Soviet Union. Belgium, the former colonial master, and the US, who had already been wary of Lumumba, set a chain of events in motion which saw his removal from office by President Kasavubu and handing over to the Katanga authorities and ultimate execution by Belgian-led Katangese troops on 17th of January 1961. In September of that year, UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld was killed in a plane crash in Congo while trying to mediate between the various factions. The Belgian government of the time, the CIA and MI6 of the UK have all been implicated in Lumumba's murder. During the colonial period, the US had acquired a strategic stake in the enormous natural wealth of the Congo, following its use of the uranium from Congolese mines to manufacture the first atomic weapons, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. With the outbreak of the Cold War, it was inevitable that the US and its Western allies would not be prepared to let Africans have effective control over strategic raw materials, lest these fall into the hands of their enemies in the Soviet camp, according to analysts. Patrice Lumumba's determination to achieve genuine independence and to have full control over Congo's resources in order to utilize them to improve the living conditions of the people was perceived as a threat to Western interests. Days before his country gained independence from Belgium, he infuriated Belgium's leaders with a speech at the Independence Day ceremony that cited the ironies, insults and the blows the Congolese people had suffered morning, noon and night during Belgium's colonial rule, and vowed to establish social justice and end oppression of free thought. In 2001, a Belgian parliamentary inquiry found that Belgian government ministers bore moral responsibility for events leading to his death. The government has since promised to prosecute those implicated in the murder and the return of what remained of his reportedly acid-dissolved body, a single tooth, to his family. Juliana Lumumba, the slain leader's daughter, wrote to Belgium's King Philip last year at the height of Black Lives Matter protests, asking for its return. A former CIA operative has also spilled the beans on American involvement going all the way to President Eisenhower. In marking the DRC's 60th anniversary in 2020, Belgium's current monarch, King Philip, expressed his deepest regrets for the brutality of the colonial past. Lumumba was a charismatic leader who was perceived by many as an embodiment of the ideals of national unity, economic independence and Pan-African solidarity, and his death cast a long shadow on his country as it is still grappling with the uncertainty of direction that his murder plunged the country into. Prominent Congolese gynecologist Denis Mukwege, the 2018 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, also paid tribute to Lumumba, calling him one of the greatest heroes in history. Lumumba was a man of determination who fought to the end for the freedom, the sovereignty of the DRC. He wrote on Twitter, "A model of courage for the youth." For Qtv News, I am Mamadou Mbodj.
Now on to some sports news. Serekunda West women's basketball team defeated Hope Academy 32-25 points in Saturday's pre-season tournament final at the Serekunda East ground. Our reporter Momudu Gajiga watched the game and he fastened this report.
It was a competitive final with a great show of skills, strength and agility from both teams. After just 5 minutes into the first quarter, host team Hope Academy took an early advantage. At the midway point of the game, the momentum shifted. Serekunda West women surged forward with precision, led by their star player Tida Minte. The first quarter ended with Serekunda West leading 12-7. After the resumption of the second quarter, Fatu Fall inspired Hope Academy for what looked like a comeback. But it was not to be, as the West team proved too strong with an incredible scoring sequence. In the final moments of the game, the host appeared to run out of steam, and Tida Minte scored 14 of her team's 35 winning points.
Actually, I felt happy because I wasn't expecting that I would play like this, and I'm very happy. Yeah, I've been practicing well before the final because we are very prepared for the final too. Sure, 100%. I am really ready for it, 100%. I choose this team to be my professional career because I'm going to school at the same time playing basketball, and I'm trying to be like my professional indeed.
For much of the game, Hope Academy did not show signs of a team with the strength to play a high-intensity game. Their captain Awanjai Sane echoed this in a post-match interview.
I think it's the inadequate trainings, because it's like we only come for trainings when we hear that the finals are close or we have a game. Everybody's like, I have some stuff to do, and like, but when it's like a week to a game, they will all come out, and that is not good for us. I think that is what showed up in the game. lack of fitness and lack of communication too in the team. Yeah, I am so, and I trust my girls very well because I know they are very strong. It's just the lack of training.
As winners of the final, one would think team coach Ablaye Ngom would be very happy with his side's victory. Instead, he demanded more from his team.
Dama kontaan lool waaye kontaan tam ba léegi des na parce que normally ñun war ñu tax ak waa ISDAL last time ñoo ko winoon bii tam ñoo ko win waaye bëgg naa win dal mu gën a yaatu parce que ñun suñu basket maanaam weesu na ay ISDAL ak yéen team yi daal. mooy li ma seetlu si kanam mooy kii ñu di préparer kii ligue bi mu nekkee ne Covid bi may nañu ko. bu dee weesoo ligue bi tam waaye mos ñu dañuy am international ki game maanaam dañuy invite ay teams yu jógee Sénégal ñoo fii ñu play against ñoom so yooyu tam ñu koy sóoraale ñu koy préparer.
These female athletes are determined to throw everything into competing in their favorite sports, but despite their ambitions, reaching the highest levels of their sport remains a far-fetched dream. The lack of proper sports infrastructure, low wages for athletes, this is for the few who get paid, and the lack of capacity of coaches are some of the major challenges. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News.
The GFF First Division League saw its first derby game of the new season. The Banjul derby between the Gambia Ports Authority and Banjul United ended in a 1-1 draw on Sunday at the Independence Stadium. Our sports reporter Mamadou Gajaga has more in this report.
Ports Authority came from behind to earn a point after playing for much of the game with 10 men. Abdullah Sar's thumping volley gave Banjul United the lead, but Mohamed Samba's orchestrated move in the right that triggered a sensational goal just 6 minutes into the game. The Ferry boys responded on the half-hour mark. Malik Sarr turned in Abdullah Abbas' delivery from a free kick with an overhead kick. After the equalizer, GPA enjoyed some moments of possession before a red card ruined their game plan. Salifun Jai got sent off for a tackle. Referee Momodou Tal first pulled a yellow card followed by a red card, giving him his matching orders for a second bookable offence. With a man down, Ports Authority were cautious, knowing that Banjul United had the numerical advantage. An approach to protect a point became imminent for Ports, while their rivals reined in with fierce attacks, trying to make the advantage tell. Abdullah Sarr will probably be kicking himself for not scoring a goalkeeper's gift chance earlier. An under-pressured GPA goalie, Dudu Dabo, failed to clear the ball inside his goal area, but Alaji Sarr could only hit the post for what should have been a goal. Musa Kambi has been a rock in GPA's midfield. He has won several balls with his recovery and passing accuracy high. He thinks sharing the points with Banjul United was the right result.
We have a red card in the 18th minute. Our team fought very well. It was a fair result for us. I trust my team. Inshallah, we're going to bounce back next game. Yeah, it was great, but it was tough too. 10 months we have was, it was like sitting training together without no football. It was very hard, but alhamdulillah now we're okay. I am training hard every day to make it right.
Banjul United coach Lamin Cisse says they got punished for their mistakes in crucial areas.
Well, it's not a bad game. It's a first game of the season, and sometimes you expect much and you have less. And I think it is a fair result and collecting a 1 point. Yeah. Of course, we could have win the game very easily, but the players are not relaxed. They were hesitating. Try to get that goal. But sometimes you have to understand it's football. You have to accept. Because GPA they did extremely well.
Despite earning a point in the first game of the season, Sheikh Adama Diouf says GPA hopes for a good season.
It's a big point. We played the game 10 against 11. After 70 minutes, after 30 minutes of play, we played 10 against 11 till the end. So it's a big point for us. It's a very good side, very competitive side. Banjul United is always like this. They are a very good side, definitely. Always when you are going to the season, you always have high hopes. But we'll see what at the end where we are.
GPA next play BK Milan at Basori, while Banjul United host Marimo at the Independence Stadium. Both matches will be played on Friday. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News.
Before we end this news bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. How prepared are members of the public if a second wave of the coronavirus hits the Gambia? We went into the streets to find out. What does government's temporary ban on the importation of poultry products mean for local producers, dealers and consumers? Musuba Kotosawa, a Gambian, has been awarded the 2020 Daily Trust African of the Year prize, which recognizes her tireless efforts in fighting for women's rights. In business news, an oil company has responded to being named in a press release as having contravened laws around the construction of petrol stations. In international news, 60 years after his assassination, we looked at the life and legacy of Patrice Lumumba. In sports news, we heard how women's basketball teams are using the preseason to prepare for the season ahead. In football, the GFF First Division League saw its first derby of the new season as Gambia Ports Authority took on Banjul United. Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Thanks for watching and don't forget to join us at 10.